I have a serious hoarding problem. My roommate says I'm crazy and complains that everything I buy is junk. She tells me that instead of buying so many compressed biscuits and instant foods, I should just buy 2 designer bags. I was forced to move into a single-occupancy dorm room and live alone. But later, when the apocalypse broke out, they knelt at my door, crying. They begged me for a bite to eat. I've had a severe hoarding habit since I was a child. Unlike other teenage girls who love beauty, I didn't like hoarding expensive clothes or cosmetics. I like to stock up on things that are both practical and inexpensive. In elementary school, I liked to collect all kinds of erasers. In middle school, I enjoyed hoarding various notebooks and gel pens. After moving into the dormitory in college, I started to love exploring different brands of instant food and bottled water. 1 or 2 boxes make me feel insecure, so I always move them into the dormitory by the case. Soon, my seat and locker were both piled high with cardboard boxes. I neatly organized and stored them together, always careful not to take up the dormitory's shared space. Sometimes, when there were many classes and the classrooms were far away, and everyone didn't have time for lunch, I would take the initiative to share the food I had stocked up with my roommates. My hoarding habit was limited to a small number of practical items. When it came to skincare, cosmetics, and other daily necessities, I was a minimalist. To compensate, I also clear out my own space in the shower and on the sink counter, letting my roommates pile up their clutter. The other 2 roommates had no objections. The only exception was the girl whose bed was directly across from mine. Jiangying, the roommate whose bed was directly across from mine, is the pampered only daughter of a wealthy Shanghai family, with an air of refinement that seemed to radiate from every strand of her hair. On the day of freshman registration, she brought a full 4 suitcases. She directed the housekeeper her family had hired to make her bed and clean the room, while she stood aside with her arms crossed, covering her nose and mouth in disdain. Since I was a child, my sheets and bed linens have had to be silk, or else I'll have an allergic reaction. She turned her head and saw me, casually instructing, "Oh, and one more thing. I must wash up with warm water every night before bed. Remember to boil a pot of water for me each evening." Out of guilt for my hoarding habit, I agreed. A month into the semester, I began to sense her obvious aversion toward me. Whenever she saw me bringing instant noodles into the dorm, she would say disdainfully, "Lin Ran, if you have money, you might as well buy some decent clothes. Look at your outfits, they're so tacky. Why do you keep buying useless junk every day?" Then she would casually show off her designer handbag. My dad went on a business trip to Hong Kong the day before yesterday. I told him I already have too many bags, but he insisted on buying me one. It's such a waste of space. The other 2 roommates remained silent at first. Later, they gradually began to echo Jiangying, because Jiangying would always casually give them the free samples of the luxury cosmetics she bought, and would also lend them clothes she no longer liked. Those foreign brands were ones girls like us who had grown up in small towns and rural areas had never heard of before. I had seen several doctors, who explained that hoarding disorder was a mental health condition, because my family lived in the countryside. When I was young, my parents would go work in the fields and be gone for the entire day. I was so hungry at home that I even ate cardboard boxes. So after growing up, I developed an extreme fear of hunger and, lacking a sense of security, formed a hoarding habit. My condition was manageable and did not require medication at the time. I took the medical documentation and applied to the school for a single-occupancy dorm room. The day I got approved, I skipped an elective class and went back to the dorm early to move my things. But at the door, I saw my belongings scattered all over the floor. Some had already been carelessly trampled by Jiangying. She kicked at my hoarded items with the tip of her shoe, her tone full of disgust. "All cheap junk. No wonder Lin Rant's mind is messed up. Eating this stuff every day." Zhang Yi murmured in agreement. "I've thought so for a long time." Hu Shan also nodded. "Living with her is just our bad luck." I held back my tears with all my might, controlled my trembling hands, kicked the door open, and walked in. I gathered up the mess of destroyed items on the floor and packed them away. Stepping out the door, I turned my head. "I hope you never have to use or eat this garbage." The new dormitory was on the top floor. Single dormitories were specially prepared by the school for graduate students, but the occupancy rate was not high. The single occupancy room was smaller than a 4-person dorm room, but it had a private bathroom and more storage space. I sorted and stored my stockpile of instant food, drinks, and snacks, and another notification popped up on my phone about a package arriving at the station. It was the 3 cartons of milk I ordered online. I walked to the campus parcel pickup station, only to see the attendant preparing to pull down the rolling shutter. I quickly grabbed my package and slipped out through the door. Since I often pick up large parcels, I've gotten quite familiar with the delivery station owner. I asked in confusion, "It's only 4 o'clock. Why are you closing so early today?" The owner's eyes widened. "Haven't you seen the news? They say a heavy rainstorm is coming, lasting a whole week. Good thing you made it today. Or who knows when you'd get your package." Just then, my phone rang. In our class year group chat, our student advisor posted a notice. "All classes are suspended for a week." It seems the news about the heavy rain is true. I carried the milk back to the dormitory building, and the place was already in an uproar. As soon as I stepped into the lobby, groups of well-dressed girls began walking out together. Probably because they didn't have an early class tomorrow, they wanted to make the most of tonight. I ran into the class monitor in the elevator. She smiled warmly and asked me, "Lynn Ran, aren't you going out to have fun?" I shook my head. Besides not liking to buy clothes and cosmetics, I also have almost no interest in activities like shopping and traveling. If I have time, I would rather hide in my own small room and be alone. I couldn't help but speak up to remind them. "Isn't there supposed to be a heavy rainstorm? Wouldn't it be a bit dangerous to go out?" That group of girls burst into laughter. "Look at that big sun outside. If it's going to rain, it definitely won't be today. It's just a little rain. At worst, we can just walk back in it." I know they might be silently mocking me for worrying unnecessarily, so I wisely shut my mouth. Back in the dormitory, I reorganized and rearranged my stockpile. The happiest moment for a hoarder is when they count their inventory over and over again. I tirelessly moved the cardboard boxes aside and stacked them up again. 2 boxes of instant porridge, 2 boxes of instant wontons, 10 boxes of various flavored instant noodles, and 5 boxes of hot and sour rice noodles from different brands, 5 cases of bottled water, 5 cases of beverages, and 3 cases of milk. Also, 2 cases of various snacks and bread. With a great sense of satisfaction, I pushed the boxes under the bed and placed the ones that wouldn't fit on the luggage rack. Then I fell asleep contentedly. I was awakened by the sound of thunder and rain. Outside the window, it was pitch black, already the dead of night. The wind mingled with the thunder, sounding terrifying in the stillness of the night. I looked out from the window. The rain on the glass was relentless, streaming down in sheets. Is this really just ordinary extreme weather? Several girls in the class group chat sent messages saying they were trapped in the subway station. Soon, a few boys who were still awake replied, telling them to wait where they were, and that they would go together to pick them up. I was reading the messages when suddenly a flash of light outside the window caught my eye. The thunder followed the lightning, striking a utility pole not far from the dormitory building. The wire snapped, crackling as it fell, sparking a series of flashes. A branch nearby caught fire, but was quickly extinguished by the pouring rain. Clearly, some girls besides me had witnessed the scene, as a few screams came from the dormitory building. I immediately turned around to turn on the light. The switch was indeed unresponsive. I turned on the faucet. The water flow was weak and soon stopped, leaving only a series of sounds from inside the faucet. I knew that heavy rain would bring water and power outages, but I didn't expect it to come so quickly. Fortunately, I have enough food and water stored. The thunder continues, waking up more and more people. The dormitory building group chat becomes active, with many people organizing card games and borrowing board games from each other. The harsh weather outside doesn't seem to have much of an impact. We're all college students, able to stay up late, keeping the excitement going until 4 in the morning. Someone suddenly remembered and sent a message in the class group chat. The guys who went to pick up the stranded girls should have made it back to the dorms safely, right? There were over a dozen people in total between the two groups, yet not a single person spoke up. Some people began to realize something was wrong. Could something have happened? Should we inform the student advisor? But most people were indifferent. It's already this late. They're probably just too tired and went to bed early. Maybe the phone battery died. Speaking of which, when will the power come back? I only have 20% left. My battery's dead too. Anyone got a power bank to lend? Several more identical messages popped up afterward, with people everywhere asking to borrow power banks. Luckily, I also had a compulsive need to keep my belongings organized. Every night before bed, I charge my phone and power bank to ensure my phone is fully charged when I wake up the next day. So now, my phone's battery is still steadily at 99%. But since I don't know when the power will come back, I quickly turned on battery saving mode and dimmed the screen brightness to the lowest setting. The group chat is full of casual chatter, with no official messages from the school. I glanced at it twice and then turned off my phone to save battery. In the pitch darkness, I closed my eyes and gradually drifted off to sleep amid the relentless sound of rain outside the window. At 8 in the morning, I woke up naturally thanks to my internal clock. I hadn't turned off the light before going to bed last night, but the room was still pitch black. The rain outside showed no sign of letting up. I opened the class group chat. At 7 o'clock, the student advisor had sent a message asking us to check in and confirm whether we were in the dormitory. Only a few people had participated. I thought it over and decided not to join the check-in for now. I lived alone in a single occupancy room, and revealing my supplies too early would only invite trouble. My compulsive need for order had taught me to plan carefully before acting. For now, I have enough food and water, and since my dorm is on the top floor, there is no immediate risk of flooding. Without being able to ensure my own absolute safety, I am not willing to rashly offer help to others. We waited until midnight, but only 10 people had joined the chain. What caught my attention was that, as of now, neither the girl who was trapped last night nor the guy who went out to pick someone up had shown up. Clearly, the others had noticed this as well. For a moment, opinions were divided, and all kinds of speculations emerged one after another. Stop guessing. They're all dead. We're next. After an anonymous account posted, the group fell into a deathly silence. The next second, the group chat was disbanded. It was only then that many people realized what had happened. This is by no means extreme weather. Perhaps, to be more precise, it should be called a disaster, or even an apocalypse. Soon, the student advisor set up a new group chat. This time, no one said a word. They just silently joined the chain. Finally, I was third from last to participate in the chain, so I wouldn't attract attention. I've always known how to be an unnoticed, invisible person. Clearly, Jiangying didn't understand this principle. She seemed unaware of the seriousness of the issue and sent many messages in the group chat all at once. Does anyone still have power in their power bank? Lend it to me. Whoever is willing to lend it to me can use my cosmetics freely. But you probably haven't seen these brands before, right? Go look them up yourself and you'll know how expensive they are. Some people probably can't afford them in their lifetime. She directly sent several pictures, showing the bottles and jars neatly arranged on the bathroom counter. Soon, someone recognized those international luxury brands. Mine still has power. Can I use a little of your moisturizer? Oh my god. Isn't that eye cream discontinued? I have 2 power banks. Use mine. At that moment, Jiangying not only revealed the fact that she was wealthy but also exposed the location of her dormitory. If the heavy rain continues without stopping, her flamboyance could very well bring trouble. But she would only feel smug. Because in the eyes of someone like her, there is nothing that money cannot solve. Jiangying got the power bank and showed off again in the group chat. Don't worry, everyone. I'll call my dad right away to have someone handle it. Some people who wanted to latch onto the powerful immediately chimed in. I never expected we'd have such an impressive classmate. We'll have to rely on you a lot from now on. Classmate Jiangying has really helped us out a lot. It's so lucky to have a classmate like this. What are you saying? Something like this must be a piece of cake for classmate Jiangying. Jiangying, indeed, flattered into complacency. immediately made a promise in the group chat. Don't worry, everyone. My family has some influence among Shanghai's business community. If you ever need my help in the future, just say the word, no need to be polite. A whole night had passed, and I was feeling a bit hungry. Since there weren't many students on the 6th floor, there was still some hot water left in the boiler room. I quickly filled 2 thermos flasks with water. Just as I brought the flasks back to the dormitory, I heard Jiang Ying's voice. She was standing on the 6th floor terrace with her back to me, making a phone call, occasionally stomping her feet and scratching her head, her tone irritable. Dad, hurry up and get someone to fix the power grid near the school. Without electricity, I can't even curl my hair, it looks so ugly. And that restroom, you have no idea how dirty it is. No one wants to come. Then offer more money. I don't care. It has to be dealt with by today. I could hear the helplessness in the man's voice on the other end of the phone. This isn't something money can solve. Do you have any idea that repairing the electrical circuits in such heavy rain could be life-threatening? Jiang Ying refused to let it go. Then come pick me up in the car. I want to go home. I can't stand staying here for even one more day. The man on the other end finally lost control of his emotions and shouted at her. Jiang Ying, I think I've been spoiling you too much. Is this the time for you to throw a tantrum? Let me tell you, I have a ton of things waiting for me at the company. Don't call me again if it's not important. Just then, someone in the group chat sent a message tagging her. Miss Jiang, why isn't the electricity back on yet? You're not messing with us, are you? Now you're playing dead. I hate people who pretend to be socialites. Jiang Ying clearly saw the messages in the group. She let out a piercing scream of despair and threw her phone heavily onto the ground. In the group chat without the teacher, the students were already discussing fervently. Some said that, according to inside information, more than just these few people had gone missing last night. And the school was suppressing the news out of fear of public opinion. Others said that during the peak of the rainfall last night, the water depth had already reached 30 centimeters, and these people had most likely already perished. Some students in low-floor dormitories have posted pictures showing nearly 20 centimeters of accumulated water on the ground, with floors, shoes, and wardrobes already submerged. I took a look and replied anonymously, "Move in with students on higher floors quickly. This water isn't clean, it's likely full of parasites and infectious bacteria. Prolonged exposure could lead to poisoning." That person replied, "I already moved to another dorm last night. The first-floor rooms are basically all empty. When I went down to check this morning, the water had already reached the lower bunk beds. At this rate, I estimate the second floor will be in trouble by tonight." Right after that, someone dropped a bombshell piece of news. This morning, the school sent people to inspect the electrical circuits. For maintenance workers. It seems they all lost their lives. The rain hasn't let up at all. The current is strong and the water is deep, so the car can't move. The maintenance workers had to wade through the water on foot, but they lost their strength before they could even get there and were swept away in an instant. 2 other workers tried to take off their insulating suits to reduce resistance, but it seemed there was electricity in the water. As soon as they removed the upper half of their suits, their entire bodies went stiff and stopped moving. It happened right below my dormitory building. I watched helplessly as they sank. It seems the power won't be restored anytime soon. No electricity, and water is even more out of the question. I made myself a bowl of instant noodles, added a pack of dehydrated vegetables and a soft-boiled egg, and opened a carton of milk as a drink. After eating, I opened my phone and saw a message from the student advisor in the grade-wide notification group. No one is allowed to leave the dormitory building. Any consequences will be your own responsibility. Someone in the group quickly raised a question. If we can't go out, what about meals? Will the school deliver food to us? It's almost 10 o'clock, and I haven't even had breakfast yet. The situation is urgent. The school is probably in an emergency meeting to figure out a solution. Let's just have some snacks to tide us over for now. I counted, and if I rationed carefully, my stockpile could last me a month without any problem. With that thought, I lay back down on the bed with relief and went back to sleep. Without setting an alarm, I woke up and found it was already 4 in the afternoon. The messages in our class year group chat had already piled up to over 99. I took a quick look. The school locked down the dormitory buildings but did not arrange meal deliveries. And there was no response to any messages all day. Not a single leader or teacher from top to bottom replied to messages. The dean's office, logistics department, and student advisors' phone lines were all busy, or even turned off directly. Some dormitories that usually don't stock up on supplies have run out of food and have started begging for meals in the group chat. I indeed saw the name of my former roommate among them. Jiang Ying spent all her allowance on expensive skincare products, shoes, and bags. And every time she ate, she would order takeout or go to a restaurant outside. She never ate processed food. Every time she saw me eating it, she would put on a mask with a look of disgust. Lin ran. Those things are full of preservatives and additives. The smell makes me want to throw up. Can you go eat outside? But now, she was begging in the group chat, asking for the junk food she once scoffed at. She had broken her own phone, so she could only use Hu Shan's account to post in the group. Does anyone have extra instant noodles or bread? I'm willing to trade my designer bag for them. I also have shoes and clothes, take your pick. Please. I'm begging everyone. I'm Jiang Ying from Design Class 1. Haven't you heard of the Jiang family in Shanghai's business community? That's my father's company. I chuckled to myself as I read the message. Back in the day, when there was an emergency or I just didn't feel like going out, instant noodles from my stash would get us through in the dorm. So gradually, Zhang Yi and Hu Shan got into the habit of not stocking up on food. When they ran out, they'd just come straight to me to grab some. I never said anything, nor did I ask them for money, but after moving out, I no longer had any obligation to help them. Other requests for food were quickly replied to, and everyone helped each other fill their stomachs. Only Jiang Ying's message hung awkwardly in the middle, ignored by everyone, with just a few people making sarcastic remarks. Miss Jiang, weren't you saying you'd find someone to fix the circuit? For you, a box of instant noodles is a piece of cake, isn't it? Come on, sis. In this situation, what are we supposed to do with your bags and clothes? We can't eat them. Who knows if those designer goods of yours are real or fake? You're not trying to pull a fast one, are you? At this point, Jiang Ying couldn't explain herself no matter what. Finally, she sent a voice message in the group. Her tone was still arrogant, but there was already a faint hint of tears in it. Believe it or not, when my dad comes to pick me up, you'll all be jealous. I picked a hot and sour instant noodles to soak, then opened a cheesecake as a post-meal dessert. Standing by the window with the instant noodles in hand, I looked outside. The sky was still pitch black, and the rain showed no sign of letting up. The water depth is estimated to be almost submerging the entire first floor. At night, noises came from the hallway. I listened carefully. Knocking sounds came from a few dorm rooms downstairs. It seemed that the second-floor dorms were also flooded, forcing them to seek help from the higher-floor dorms. But in this situation, everyone is struggling to survive on their own. So naturally, they don't want to invite more trouble. So most dormitories chose not to open their doors at all, but there were still soft-hearted girls who, after hearing their classmates' repeated pleas, let them into the room. Late at night, after a full day of fear and hunger, the students had long lost their energy and went to bed early. The corridor was silent and pitch black. Suddenly, a burst of arguing and screaming erupted from one of the dorm rooms. The dorm door was flung open, making the noise even more distinct, as if it were very close to me. It must have been from a room on the 5th floor. One of the voices sounded very familiar. It was Jiang Ying. Another girl was crying and shouting into the hallway. Everyone, come and judge for yourselves. Do you have any sense of reason? I took pity on you and gave you food, even let you stay overnight in our dorm, and now you're telling me to sleep on the floor while you take the bed. If you don't like it here, go back to your own dorm. Jiang Ying retorted in a sharp voice. The floor is too hard. It's digging into me and I can't sleep. Do you have any idea that the mattress I sleep on at home costs 6 figures? And I haven't even complained that your cheap bedding is scratching me yet. That girl had clearly never encountered such a spoiled and domineering young lady, and she was so angry she couldn't speak. Her roommate and other students from the dormitory were woken up one after another and came out to speak up for her. She's willing to help you. And you don't even show any gratitude. Instead you're nitpicking here. Why don't you just get the hell back to your own dorm? A high-class lady like you still lives in the dormitory like us commoners. Might as well move into a 5-star hotel. If you ask me. From now on, none of us should help her. To avoid getting ourselves into trouble, everyone returned to their own dormitories, closing the doors and locking them, leaving Jiang Ying alone in the hallway. She kicked and pounded on the doors of other dormitories like a madwoman. But this time, no dormitory would ever take her in again. Having been pampered since childhood, Jiang Ying didn't even have much stamina for throwing a tantrum. After making a scene for a while, she stopped, panting heavily. Then, heavy footsteps echoed through the hallway as Jiang Ying climbed up to the 6th floor. Fortunately, I had already fallen out with her by the time I moved out of the dormitory, so she didn't know exactly which room I was in. So she could only stand at the stairwell and shout my name. Lin Ran. I know you're on the 6th floor. You always stock up on so much stuff. So you must still have food. You can't just stand by and let me starve. Can you? The other residents on the same floor were all senior graduate students, and they weren't about to put up with Jiang Ying's spoiled princess attitude. Soon, an impatient curse came from one of the dormitories. Are you out of your mind? Calling out like a ghost in the middle of the night. If you can't stand living, go die. Don't disturb my sleep. If you've got guts, don't run. If I catch you, I'll beat you so badly your own mother won't recognize you. As he spoke, the sound of rustling clothes could indeed be heard from the neighboring dormitory. Jiang Ying had never seen such a scene before. She stomped her feet in frustration, turned around, and ran downstairs. She didn't forget to yell at me. Lin Ran, you're finished. Just wait for me. I turned over and slept even more soundly. On the 3rd day of the heavy rain, the downpour eased, but the temperature dropped sharply. I woke up shivering in the early hours, pulled out the thickest down jacket from the closet, and put it on, then covered myself with 2 heavy quilts. Still feeling a chill, I made a cup of hot milk tea with boiling water and held it in my hands to warm them. Taking a sip, the overly sweet, cloying hot milk tea stimulated the release of dopamine, bringing me a sense of comfort in the cold, quiet night. I sat propped up on the bed, watching the distant clouds slowly churn. It was another overcast day today. Even though I had been frugal enough, my phone was already running low on battery. But fortunately, there was no one I needed to contact anyway. The dormitory building gate, which had been quiet for a long time, was pushed open from the inside, and a few students tentatively stepped out, probably running out of supplies in the dorm, and with the school slow to offer a solution, they decided to try their luck outside on their own. But before they had gone far, the shorter girl at the end of the group seemed to step into a void, suddenly submerged over her head by the swift current. The 3 girls ahead, quick-eyed and swift-handed, pulled her up and helped her back to the dormitory stairs. The girl choked on the murky floodwater, something stuck in her throat, leaving her unable to breathe and her face flushed red. A girl frantically pulled out her phone to make a call, but with the floodwaters this deep, an ambulance wouldn't be able to get in anytime soon. The coughing girl's sounds grew weaker and weaker until she finally closed her eyes. The other 3 girls scattered in panic, exchanged bewildered glances, and then retreated into the dormitory building, looking back every few steps. I sighed and dialed 119 with the little battery I had left. But until my phone ran out of power and shut down automatically, the line was always busy. At that moment, I began to pray. I hope this apocalypse ends soon, and that as few innocent people as possible suffer. Without my phone, my only source of information was cut off. The entire building was dead silent, whether to conserve energy or because everyone had fallen into utter despair. I couldn't tell. Time ticked by, minute by minute, and soon it was almost noon. I had just opened a bag of chicken legs to eat when suddenly there was a knock on the door. Cautiously, I made no sound and moved to the door to look outside. There was no trace of anyone outside. A chill ran down my spine when I suddenly heard Jiang Ying's voice. Her voice was hoarse, as if she had just been crying. and her tone lacked any trace of her former pride. Lin ran. I know you're in there. Please, give me something to eat. After confirming that she was alone and posed no threat to me, I gently opened the door a crack. Only then did I realize that the reason I hadn't seen anyone through the peephole was that Jiang Ying was kneeling right in front of my door. She was wrapped in her favorite designer cashmere coat, which she usually loved to show off. But now it was soaked through by rain and dew, completely losing its warmth. Seeing me open the door, she trembled and lunged forward, grabbing my ankle. Lin ran. Lin ran. Please, give me something to eat. I'm so cold. I know I was wrong. I apologize to you. I shouldn't have yelled at you, shouldn't have stomped on your things, shouldn't have kicked you out of the dorm. Bushan and the others refused to share any food with me, and they called me spoiled and kicked me out. I tried to find a place to stay, but no one was willing to take me in. You're the only one who can help me. Before she could finish speaking, tears were already streaming down her face. Seeing her pale and shivering from the cold, I let out a helpless sigh. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to be so heartless as to leave her to die. I handed her the remaining down jacket and turned back to give her 2 pieces of bread. In the past, every time Jiang Ying saw my down jacket, she would disdainfully say, "This thing has no shape at all. It makes me look so fat. You might as well buy a nice cashmere coat, it's warm and looks good." But now, she shakily pulled the down jacket over herself, carelessly tossing the beautiful cashmere coat to the ground. The bread she once found too dry and choking was now eaten with relish, as if it were a rare delicacy. I've done all I can. Don't come looking for me again. I closed the door without a second thought. Outside the door, Jiang Ying sobbed as she got up and left. I wasn't sure if I was hearing things. Amid the sobbing, it seemed there was a choked-up thank you. On the 5th day after classes were suspended, the torrential rain finally eased into a moderate downpour. But the city's drainage system had not yet been repaired, and the floodwaters still hadn't receded. In the morning, I was woken up by a loud banging on the door. Looking through the peephole, I saw 3 girls standing side by side at the entrance to my room. The girl in the middle was deathly pale, barely able to stand upright with the support of the other 2. The 2 girls on the left and right were crying, their faces covered in tears, as they kept begging, "Please, save Ying. I beg you." I had some memory of the girl in the middle. It seemed we had attended the same elective class. She was very beautiful, but she didn't seem to be in good health, coughing throughout the entire class. Sure enough, before I could even ask, the people outside the door had already laid out their situation in full. "We saw Jiang Ying come to you yesterday. And you gave her bread and clothes. If you still have any supplies left, please help Ying. She's never been in good health. She had a slight fever when the rainstorm started, and last night the temperature dropped sharply. This morning, her condition worsened. Our dorm didn't have much stock to begin with, and the 2 of us have been trying to save as much as we can for Ying, but relying on snacks to keep her going. I'm afraid her body won't hold up." The 2 girls were petite and slender, and they didn't seem like a threat to me for now. Even if there was real danger, I, having been well-fed and well-rested these past few days, would definitely have the upper hand in terms of stamina. After thinking it over, I opened the door and let them help the sick girl inside. I touched her forehead, it was burning hot. With such a high fever, if she remained in a state of hunger any longer, her life would likely be in danger. I quickly made her a bowl of instant porridge with hot water and also found a piece of anti-inflammatory medicine. Her 2 roommates helped her sit up and carefully fed her. The aroma of the porridge wafted out, and the 2 girls' stomachs growled loudly. They gazed longingly at the bowl of porridge, yet none of them took a single bite. They gave it all to Ying. After finishing the bowl of porridge, Ying's forehead broke out in a light sweat, and her lips regained a bit of color. I was still worrying about the sleeping arrangements when I saw her force herself up, supported by the 2 girls as they walked toward the door. As if sensing my confusion, one of the girls explained, "In this situation, it's already very kind of you to offer us food. We can't trouble you further by asking to stay the night. It wasn't until I saw them already out the door that I snapped back to my senses and quickly called out to them. Then I pulled 3 cups of instant noodles out of the box and pressed them into their hands. Perhaps no one would have imagined that what was once an everyday, even despised, junk food would now become a rare treasure in the apocalypse. Tears welled up in the eyes of the 3 girls. As if the fear and helplessness they had held back for days had finally burst forth. They sobbed and promised, "Don't worry, classmate, we definitely won't leak your secret. If there's anything we can help you with in the future, just let us know." I showed the first smile in days and told them to take Ying back to rest quickly. I waited until evening, but no one came to knock on my door. It seemed the 3 girls had kept their promise and hadn't revealed that I had supplies. This came as a relief to me. On one hand, my supplies were far from enough to share with everyone in the building, and could even trigger more severe scrambling. On the other hand, I am a selfish person and have no desire to be some kind of savior. In such extreme weather, I just want to survive. On the morning of the 6th day, the rain stopped. When I was woken by a blinding light, I felt a moment of excitement, thinking that the electricity had finally been restored. But soon, I realized the light came from outside the window. The sky was bright, and sunlight streamed through the window into the small dormitory. The sky cleared up. Faintly, a rainbow could even be seen hanging at the edge of the clouds. With the sunlight shining, the accumulated water would surely recede soon. At noon that day, the power supply was restored. I opened my phone and dozens of messages from my parents and friends came into view. I quickly sent a message to let them know I was safe. The school issued an official document and began providing students with free meals and warm clothing on a regular basis. The city's post-disaster reconstruction plan was activated, and various departments dispatched additional rescue personnel to schools and hospitals. It was only after watching the news that I realized the cables at our school had been damaged from the very start of the rainstorm. Located in the suburbs and in a low-lying area, it became one of the hardest-hit regions. Unable to reach their children, parents repeatedly braved the pouring rain to protest in front of the Education Bureau and the government. If we remained out of contact for more than a week, the government would send helicopters for rescue. Fortunately, on the 6th day of being stranded, the disaster came to an end. Several ambulances came and went on campus, and within just 2 hours, all the injured or sick students had been evacuated. Some bodies were carried out of the mud, their faces covered with white cloth. The school kept broadcasting, instructing all students to stay in their dormitories and wait for further notice. I stood by the window, quietly witnessing all of this. When everything quieted down, I began the work I had repeated countless times again. I took stock of my inventory. As I was silently calculating my next restock in my mind, a knock came at my door. The disaster had passed, so I opened the door without worry. Jiang Ying had probably already received help from her father, changing back into an expensive outfit, with her hair curled into delicate waves. However, there was less disdain in her eyes and more embarrassment. Looking closely, she even seemed a bit flushed. I'm sorry, Lin Ran. I shouldn't have scolded you before, and I definitely shouldn't have broken your things. Also, thank you. Don't worry, I won't freeload off you, just tell me what reward you want. Although I can't afford a house or a car, a few bags should be no problem. I was surprised that the formerly pampered and arrogant Jiang Ying had become so much friendlier. I thought for a moment and pointed at the cardboard boxes on the floor. I don't need you to buy any designer bags. How about this, you help me restock the inventory, and that'll be your way of thanking me. Surprise flickered in her eyes, and she nodded eagerly. Such a small thing. Of course I can agree to that. After repeatedly confirming that I had no other requests, Jiang Ying walked away, looking back every few steps. Life seemed to return to normal. The buildings on campus that had been destroyed by the flood were rebuilt one by one. The school authorities assessed the extent of damage to each dormitory and arranged for wall painting and floor relaying in a unified manner. Some dormitories were already missing residents, so 2 rooms were combined into one. Many students were left with psychological trauma and chose to rent apartments off campus. People were coming and going in the dormitory building, making it seem even livelier than before. Jiang quickly fulfilled her promise and bought me over a dozen boxes of instant noodles. Carrying it from the courier station up to the 6th floor was a huge undertaking. I was struggling to move it trip by trip when suddenly the weight in my hands lightened. Looking over the box, I saw Jiang still wearing a look of disdain, but she still reached out to help me lift half of the box. I smiled and said sincerely, "Thank you." After the disaster, everyone learned from their mistakes and started stocking up moderately in the dormitory. So, when they saw me carrying boxes up and down trip after trip, no one gossiped about me behind my back anymore. Occasionally, a few girls would smile at me kindly and lend a hand. Then one day, when I saw my name on the campus honors board, I was utterly astonished. It was only after asking the teacher that I learned it was Ying and her roommates who recommended me to the school. They said that during the rainstorm, I selflessly shared my supplies with them, which helped Ying get through that night of high fever. I found them to express my gratitude, but they warmly pulled me along and insisted on treating me to a meal. We exchanged contact information. Later, whenever we had no classes, they would enthusiastically invite me to go out and have fun. We watched movies and played games together, and at night, we would sleep on the floor in their dorm, snacking while watching the projector. The loneliness I felt after starting college was gradually dispelled bit by bit. Later, when I saw Jiang again in class, she had changed a lot. She was still dressed elegantly and wore beautiful makeup. But her clothes were no longer covered in exaggerated designer logos. Now, Jiang looked more like an ordinary college student, just like the rest of us. From classmates, I heard that the Jiang family suffered heavy losses in this rainstorm, with compensation amounts reaching tens of millions, putting the company's operations in a very precarious state. Meeting her gaze, I felt neither mockery nor sympathy. I simply looked away. I knew that after surviving a disaster, everyone would eventually learn to embrace a new life.